Australia is set to bring in new laws to increase transparency after a report savaged the former Prime Minister for giving himself secret roles. Scott Morrison, who was defeated at an election this year, has defended his appointments to several ministries as necessary in extraordinary times. But an inquiry by a former High Court justice found his conduct was corrosive of trust in government. And current PM Anthony Albanese says it was unprecedented and inexcusable. It emerged in August this year that Mr. Morrison had become Joint Minister for Health, Finance, Treasury, Home Affairs and Resources in the 2 years before he lost power in May. Most ministers were reportedly unaware they were sharing portfolios with Mr. Morrison, and he has been widely criticized, including by close colleagues. Mr. Morrison only used his extra powers once, to overrule the Resources Minister in a matter unrelated to the pandemic. An investigation by the Solicitor General early this year found Mr. Morrison had acted legally but had fundamentally undermined responsible government. After a 3-month inquiry, Virginia Bell came to a similar conclusion. She ultimately found the appointments were unnecessary and 3 of 5 had little if any connection to the pandemic. Mr. Morrison's rationale for swearing himself into the ministries was not easy to understand and difficult to reconcile, she added. The report also revealed that Mr. Morrison also instructed his department to plan for his appointment to administer a 6th additional role, but ultimately decided not to proceed with it. The report does not criticize Australia's Governor-General who oversaw the secret appointments, saying he was acting on the advice of the government of the day. Mr. Morrison on Friday repeated his defense of his actions, in a statement posted on social media. These decisions were taken during an extremely challenging period, where there was a need for considerable urgency, he said, noting critics were speaking with the benefit of hindsight. He questioned the ability for third parties to draw definitive conclusions on the matter. But Mr. Albanese said reports showed that the actions of the former Prime Minister were extraordinary and wrong, adding the previous government had operated under a culture of secrecy. He said the Australian people were owed an apology after being misled over the structure of their government. Mr. Albanese accepted the report's suggestions for reform, including new legislation that would require any appointments be publicly disclosed. Earlier on Friday morning, former Treasurer Josh Frydenberg spoke out for the first time, saying Mr. Morrison's secret ministries were extreme overreach. Mr. Morrison was a close political ally and still hasn't apologized for secretly swearing himself into the Treasury portfolio, Mr. Frydenberg, who lost his seat at the election, has told columnist and author Nikki Sava.